All of our productions at GCTV are sponsored in part by Bay State Health, providing the care you and your family need when you need it, close to home. Visit them online at baystatehealth.org. Greenfield Savings Bank. Visit them at 400 Main Street in Greenfield. Call them at 774-3191 or go online to greenfieldsavings.com. Greenfield Community College, providing access and excellence in higher education in the Pioneer Valley. Visit them at gcc.mass.edu. The Hammond Family. The Hammond family are longtime supporters of Greenfield Community Television. New Fortune Chinese Restaurant on the Mohawk Trail in Greenfield. Visit them online at newfortunema.com. Call them at 772-0838 and check them out on Facebook. Real Cleaning Services, cleaning Hampshire and Franklin County since 1972. We don't cut corners, we clean them. Check them out online at realclean.com. Call them at 413-422-1143. People's United Bank, located at 45 Federal Street in Greenfield. You can call them at 774-3713 or visit them online at peoples.com. The Solar Store of Greenfield, replacing fossil fuels and nuclear power one home at a time. Visit them at 23 Fisk Ave. Call them at 413-772-3122 or visit them online at solarstoreofgreenfield.com. Thank you to our sponsors for supporting all of GCTV's productions.
A special meeting of the Greenfield Public Schools School Committee. Today is Wednesday, September 5th, 2018. It is 6:04 p.m. and we are located at the GCTV studios at 393 Main Street. If there is anyone in the audience or at the table that is recording, please state so now. Seeing no one, can we please have a roll call? Secretary Alexander.
Committee Member Karen.
Here.
Committee Member Ekstrom.
Here.
Committee Member Hollins.
Here.
Committee Member Ward.
Here.
Mayor Martin, I'm showing is absent. Myself, Committee Member Nunez.
Here.
Chair, you have quorum.
Thank you. So as I stated, this is a special meeting of the school committee, and we are here meeting specifically for the FY18 superintendent evaluation. We do have public comment on the agenda, and then we will enter into the deliberation period. So we will start with public comment. Before we call our first public participant, I would like to remind the public of our public comment policy. This is a public participation at school committee meetings. File B as in boy, E as in education, D as in dog, and H as in Harry. In our policy, I will summarize a few key points. We welcome input from the public, and at the start of each regularly scheduled school committee meeting, individuals or group representatives will be invited to address the committee. The chairperson shall determine the length of the public participation segment. Speakers will be allowed 3 minutes to present their material. The presiding chairperson may permit extension of this time limit. Topics for discussion must be limited to those items listed on the school committee meeting agenda for that evening. Improper conduct and remarks will not be allowed. Defamatory or abusive remarks are always out of order. If a speaker persists in improper conduct or remarks, the chairperson may terminate the individual's privilege of address. All remarks will be addressed through the chairperson of the meeting. Speakers may offer such objective criticisms of the school operations and programs as concern them, but in public session, the committee will not hear personal complaints of school personnel, nor against any member of the school community. Under most circumstances, administrative channels are the proper means for disposition of legitimate complaints involving staff members. Written comments longer than 3 minutes may be presented to the committee before or after the meeting of committee members for committee members' review and consideration at an appropriate time. Susan Farber, do you have a list of public comment? Thank you. And Member Alexander, if you could keep the time 3 minutes for each individual. When you come to the table, yes, please. If you could just state your name and address for the record, and be sure to speak into the microphone.
My name is, can you hear me? Okay. My name is Andrew Vernon, 17 Sunset Square, Greenfield. I apologize, I have a vision condition and wrote something earlier which I'll read, so apologies for the lack of eye contact. In response to the evaluation, a few comments. I noticed in reviewing the evaluation that there are several sections where there are some review points that are absent. This includes page 4 and page 5 relative to goal 1 and goal 2 overall review. I don't know if this is relative to the PDF on the public webpage of gpsk12.org. In response to page 2, specifically student safety measures, last winter I attempted to communicate and coordinate with the central office on several points related to school safety. I raised concerns and questions that have yet to be responded to. I was told that there would be conversation with the community. At this time, I am still unaware of said conversation that may have or will transpire in the future. In response to page 2, embrace technology and digital communications. I've communicated with school staff members in the central office on this point. It is my understanding at this time that the school messenger application has entirely replaced Connect Ed, which expired on August 31st, 2018, and at this time, only text messaging is the sole modality of emergency communications, given that I, as a parent, for instance, do not have access to PowerSchool, and in turn cannot edit my school messenger profile. In response to page 2 and email alerts relative to meetings, student achievements, and district news, I have signed up for the opt-in process on gpsk12.org. To date, I have received no email communications through this supposed modality. As to goal 1, instructional leadership, this is a difficult one for me to comment on. To my knowledge, I have no canonical data that would be productive or prudent for at least my personal input on this matter. I would appreciate the opportunity to review such progress data if it is available, but otherwise fully respect the comments that have been made in said review. As to goal 2, family and community engagement at the district level, as of yet, I personally have yet seen evidence of any of the key actions met here. While they have been there, there's been no engagement with parents to my knowledge, or at least with myself. As to goal 2, key action 5, ongoing opportunities, feedback, and evaluation, please do let me know more about this and when that may be made available. And so in response to—
Andrew, that is time. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, Sarah Ahern, 85 Crescent Street. Good evening, school committee members. I'm happy to be speaking to you this evening in regards to Superintendent Jordana Harper's performance review as superintendent of schools. I will begin with a personal story of the first time I met her and the impact it had on me then and continues to this day. When we met at a town council meeting, where I had the good fortune of sitting next to her, I had a burning question in my mind and asked her, bracing myself for rejection. The question I asked her was, would she be willing to have a conversation about having individuals in long-term recovery come to speak to the students about our journey and the hope and gratitude recovery brings? Without skipping a beat, she said absolutely. Thus began an open dialogue about prevention and knowledge sharing. I was grateful to learn she had registered our middle school, sorry, really nervous, for Project HERE, a prevention curriculum created by the Attorney General and the Heron Project. I saw her stand up for her students and her school during sometimes contentious budget discussions and inspired almost an entire town council to put money back into the budget, meant for something else. I also witnessed her speech in the 2018 graduating class, which included one of my own. She was inspiring and a true reflection of who she is and what this job means to her. And finally, I would like to leave you with a connection to a prevention resource, courtesy of the Opiate Task Force in Franklin County, and an open invitation to everyone on this committee and all GPS staff to attend any prevention and education subcommittee meetings of the Opiate Task Force. You can find these meetings on opiatetaskforce.org so you can continue the important prevention dialogue for all education levels.
Thank you, Sarah.
And can I just leave this here?
Sure,
Those are for you.
Or pass them out.
whatever you prefer. Thank you.
There's a nice article in Business West
Oh, thank you.
about
Thanks a lot.
the recovery project and the task force.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Doug Selwyn, 38 Forest Avenue in Greenfield. Here we are again, another school year. Thank you for doing what you're doing. I know this is not easy work, and so I thank you for that. A couple of comments. First of all, there are, it seems to me, consistently only a couple of us who show up at these meetings in terms of the public, and that concerns me. Because there are a lot of voices out there that may not be heard, and I'm wondering what can be done to increase involvement. I know that these are billed as public meetings, but they're really private meetings held in public more than anything, it seems to me, because we get to make 3 minutes of comment with no response coming back, so there's no dialogue to it. And then whatever the substance of the meeting is, such as the evaluation that's being discussed tonight, we have no opportunity to really respond or be part of that conversation. And I'm afraid that the structure of the meeting may be one of the things that are holding back people from being involved. So I'm asking if there are other ways that arrangements might be made to increase public involvement, especially involvement by people who are more further from the centers of power, I guess, underrepresented populations, people who are poor, people of color, people who may have concerns that they don't feel as comfortable coming to the meetings to express. And I'm wondering if there are ways that the council or committee has of getting that information that I don't see, because I don't know what you do when you're not here. So that's one piece. The second is some concerns about the evaluation. I didn't get through all 9,000 pages of it, but there seemed to be some areas that were not filled in at all, and I don't know what that means. I don't know how decisions were made about the ratings, and maybe some of that will come out tonight, but it was a mystery to me in many cases. So I hope that there's more transparency about that. Reading some of the comments and my sort of lay evaluations of observation, it seems that for the past year that I've been here, the superintendent has been attempting to lead the district while also watching her back. It hasn't felt like there's always been full support. And support doesn't mean agreement necessarily, but full support in terms of working in the same direction. And some of the comments made that seem, again, like maybe we're not all pulling in the same direction, and that concerns me as a community member. I guess I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Another reject there. Okay. Bob Cooley, 44 Overland Road. Like Doug, I just got a hold of this material, in fact, the big packet. So my response to this tonight is neither comprehensive nor systematic, nor could it be given the 3-minute restriction. So some answers may lie in material I've not yet read, acknowledging that. I'm interested in how you all get community information, how you poll the community. The evaluation, as I read it and as I understand it, is very incomplete, and therefore I don't know how you can have an evaluation meeting at this time. I'm interested in the definitions from the committee about proficient and exemplary. At times, these are just snippets, okay? On page 10, the narrative doesn't seem to match the proficiency rating. For example, there is a reference to the obstacles faced and overcome in good fashion given the absence of the curriculum director. This seems to me to be noteworthy and an example of, again, not knowing what proficient and exemplary mean, but this is remarkable work. Page 12, the parent community are engaged and encouraged at every level. She's been invited as a guest speaker at Mount Holyoke, representing the community well, responds promptly and professionally. Again, these are quality, high standards being met. In page 13, there is a comment, elements of exemplary performance in terms of conflict resolution skills, a critical piece of leadership. Performance goals wasn't done, to the best of my knowledge. In terms of instruction, it seems to me the two members who commented there was member disagreement, which again is fine. I'm just interested in the conflict resolution dialogues that are available to you. I was interested in, she demonstrates cultural humility and sensitivity in all aspects of her leadership. As one who's worked on inclusive excellence for 42 years in education, this is an example of educational excellence. So again, proficient, exemplary, I'm not sure how it's being used, but that's an example of inclusive excellence. Let's see. And I look forward to reading more and hearing more from you all, as I have the greatest respect for your work, and also blessings as you get your work started for the year. I've heard once again I got an email because I seem to be on some civics organization website. I mentioned before in Massachusetts there's civicsforall.org. Now I got something on Generation Citizen. It's a national operation that's going on in civics, and indeed the goal is to help develop an informed electorate, which we desperately need. There is work going on in Boston, and I think we need to tap into that. I would, anytime you're ready to talk about civics work, I'd be delighted to sit down and talk to anybody if that would be useful. So again, best to you as you do all your deliberations.
Thank you, Bob.
Yep.
Good evening. Some of you might know me. My name is Ann Valentine, and I am presently a 25-year veteran here at Greenfield. I teach 4th grade at Federal Street. I have been a choice-in parent of the Greenfield school systems previously, as well as I am right now the union president, and I have been involved with the union for the last 15 out of my 25 years. I am here to show support for Superintendent Harper for many reasons. I have had the opportunity to work with many superintendents in the last 25 years, and that's been an interesting change of events, to say the least, but always one that I learned from. And I'd like to say that one of the things that I have found with Superintendent Harper is that she is always approachable. That whenever there's a concern, if I am a parent, a teacher, a union member, she's approachable. She's also transparent, and she also is communicative. She gets back to me if I'm a teacher, if I'm a union person, or if I just see her in Target on the weekends. So she's chatting with me, even though my children would like it if I don't chat. The other thing that Superintendent Harper has always been is available. And whether I'm wearing a hat of somebody with choice in information or a union representative or a teacher representative, she's always available. I will call and she's available. She'll email me right away. When can we meet? When is this? And she's always called me to say, any concerns going on out there? Anything that I should know? You're the one that people complain to? What's going on? And she did this recently, and I said, Jordana, I really don't have anything that's going on in the hopper. Everything's really good. We're excited about the start of the year. We liked what's going on. And that was a really nice thing. She contacted me to say, anything that I need to know, what's going on out there. So this has been a pleasure to work with her. I'm pleased to keep doing that. I am here for the long haul. This is my 25th year here. I stay in Greenfield because I love Greenfield. I love the changes, and I think that Superintendent Harper is doing the right thing for Greenfield. And I thank you for all you've done. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public that would like to comment at this time? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to our third agenda item, the FY18 Superintendent Evaluation. And before we begin the formal evaluation, I'd like to explain just a tiny bit about the process, a condensed summary of what we've gone through. The annual evaluation of Superintendent Harper is the statutory responsibility of the school committee. We're required to follow a process outlined by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. And that includes the development of annual goals that are mutually agreed upon by the superintendent and our school committee. This also includes a mid-cycle review of progress, on-said goals, and additional performance indicators, and finalizes with an annual review like today's meeting. Our school committee received training by the Massachusetts Association of School Committees, as well as written material to support our understanding of this process and the rubric used to evaluate. Generally, a school committee and superintendent will generate 4 to 6 mutually agreed upon goals. However, our goal-setting process for FY18 was delayed and therefore resulted in an agreement to approve only 2 goals for the FY18 school year. In addition to evaluating the outcome of the agreed upon goals, we also rate the superintendents on other performance standards. The superintendent participates in a self-evaluation and delivers evidence to the committee supporting her work. Each member received an evidence binder and the superintendent's self-evaluation prior to completing individual member input documents. I believe that what was referenced in public comment, the large packet, was the evaluation binder material in addition to the self-evaluation document and the school committee compiled document. Individual member documents were collected and compiled by member Ekstrom, who was selected by the group to compile the results this year. The committee was provided the compiled results as well as individual member input documents. All documents related to a superintendent evaluation are public record. At this time, the committee is tasked with reviewing the compilation of member input and formally adopting an FY18 summative evaluation of Superintendent Harper. To be very clear, individual member input is just that, it's individual. So what is on the compiled document right now does include individual member input and represents only the opinion of the individual member that is noted. The compiled member input document is not representative of the opinion of the whole body until we vote to adopt it, if we do. Again, individual member input represents only their opinion. The execution of the FY18 superintendent evaluation has been unique. To begin with, our process and goal setting started late, as I noted earlier. Then our evaluation was postponed by request of the superintendent and agreement of the committee. Then our evaluation was delayed slightly due to the member time needs in compiling input. What we have before us today is a partially incomplete compilation of member input. Overall assessment and assessment of the two FY18 goals has not been included in the digital document. Our committee experienced difficulty related to technology and difficulty in holding ourselves to the agreed upon timeline, and for this I accept responsibility. As chair, I feel that I could have led this group through a clearer process and done a better job in holding deadlines. For this, I apologize, and I look to the coming cycle of goal setting and evaluation to do a better job and actively learn from this experience. I have a deep interest in supporting a positive and constructive feedback loop between the superintendent and the committee. As well, I believe most of our members are looking forward to success and constructive goal setting and in the new evaluation cycle for FY19. I've asked Member Ekstrom to speak to her role in the process and would like the committee to have time to either today or in the near future provide input on how we can best meet the needs of our membership in supporting this evaluation process as a whole moving forward. In addition, the superintendent may respond or provide additional input during this deliberation, and of course, individual members are able to deliberate. Before yielding to Member Ekstrom, I will emphasize once again that individual member input represents only the opinion of said member. As well, all documents related to this evaluation are public record. And I thank all of the interested community members. I think there's also folks that are probably watching on TV or may watch this at a later date. And thank you to the committee. This, as I noted, is a learning process. And thank you to the superintendent. I'll yield now to Member Ekstrom to comment as she desires on the process and her role in the FY18 superintendent evaluation. Yeah, you're welcome.
I want to say first, this was a really difficult task to do. Truly technology-based. There are a couple of places that it kind of went off the rails. I think when we first talked about this and the school committee was preparing to do their responses, the intent had been that the responses for each of these points would be done on the same form that the superintendent had conducted her responses on. I had spoken with Massey with my concerns about there being bias. If we're responding on the same thing, if you're kind of feeling one way or another, or you may be pushed one way or another based on seeing the answer that the superintendent had given. And so receiving confirmation from Massey that yes, that is absolutely a concern, people should have a blank response form, I asked Jordana and Joanne to send blank response forms for that, to email a blank response form to all the committee members. And so what happened from there on out became a little bit crazy. As I'm looking, so I have the end of cycle summative evaluation report, superintendent, the committee compilation, which I know I completed. I have the handwritten paper version right here with all the marks and all those things, but for whatever reason, by the time it got to Adrian, there's not responses in numerous places that I know there are responses. Not only that, but so the one that I did my little paper scratching on, the one that's presented here, and then the one that I personally responded to, all three are different response forms. So that, of course, is another concern, and the superintendent's is different as well. So putting something together based on all of those things, which, the best practice would have been, okay, we gotta figure this out now that I've got all these responses, but people had put in the time, and if we went back, then we're changing how our process was, and it was important that we keep our process consistent. So when I would receive responses from each of the committee members and open it up, if I opened it up in Google Docs, it looked one way. If I opened it up in Word, it looked another way. If I looked at it in a PDF, it looked another way, but if I printed it as a PDF, it looked a different way. The form itself would not line up properly. That being said, and unfortunate that the committee compilation doesn't show what the actual responses were. We actually have a really strong response overall to how all of our committee felt and responded. So while what's out there may not look like it's accurate, I'm happy to try and make it happen again. I mean, so we can post it accurately. I have no desire to have an inaccurate document floating around on the planet. So that is some of the things that went through in putting together the compilation.
Thank you, Member Ekstrom. I believe that 5 members provided individual input, and that was compiled. There were the issues that she noted on the first page. And I want everyone to know that I did consider canceling the meeting, postponing this meeting, and taking more time to address some of these inconsistencies. And I decided to hold this meeting this evening because I felt that we had a document that was representative of the average feeling of our school committee as a body, and individual member documents were sent out to committee members in order to ensure transparency. And we are here today to adopt a superintendent evaluation together as a group because this is a collaborative effort. The compilation is really just a springboard for our conversation. I also felt that with further delays, we were just delaying. And at this point, through committee member input in subcommittee and privately, folks have expressed a real interest in providing feedback from this year and moving forward constructively and collaboratively into FY19. Discussion on FY19 goals has already begun, and there's an interest in really doing our best to follow through with the cycle, in the evaluation cycle, in order to get feedback here from this year and move forward constructively into FY19. So with all of that being said, I'd like to move into further deliberation on this particular evaluation. And I would entertain a motion to approve the superintendent's FY18 evaluation with the final assessment of proficient in all areas, with individual member comments removed.
So moved.
Second.
In a second, thank you. I'll speak briefly to this. The reason why I suggested that individual comments be removed is because with a proficient assessment, it is not required that we include comments. It's required if we mark unsatisfactory or needs improvement. And thus, my suggestion to remove comments. That does not mean that I want to stifle conversation. In fact, I think it's very important for our superintendent to hear our input. Yes, Member Ward.
Ready for the input?
Bring it.
Okay. So one of the public comments, Doug mentioned being more involved in the process. How does the public get more involved? They talk to us, and we listen. And Doug spoke. He was one of many that spoke during the contract period that we had with the superintendent, which went longer than expected. And we happen to take all the freaking heat for that. I said, what are you talking about? Why is this our fault? This is a two-way street. It's a contract.
Let's speak to the evaluation.
What I'm getting at is everybody wanted this superintendent. They wanted to make sure that we signed her. So much so that there was a lot of, I didn't get threatened, but they wanted it done, and they wanted it done now. And I told them, I assured them that that was what was happening. That we were working on the best deal for her and for you. And that's not easy, especially when you've got a gem. And I believe that we do. You may not feel like the public perception may be that we don't always have her back. She may feel that at times, I don't know, but I've certainly told her 100 times since I've been on this school committee that I have her back. And now, you know, there's very few perfect people in the world. There's Tom Brady, myself. So I'm not asking, we shouldn't ask her to be perfect, and she's not. And there's things that we're working on, okay? But overall, she's a gem, and we're lucky to have her. And I'm happy that we were able to sign her to that contract. I didn't fill out this report. And maybe that upsets the superintendent, and maybe it upsets Member Ekstrom. I'm sorry, but I'm not a big believer in the process. I think there's a lot of red tape there and a lot of bull crap. Quite honestly, I don't much like participating in that. And I've been on the committee long enough to know where it exists. I jumped right over that, and I'm sitting here today that I'm ready to vote proficient on across the board, but there are some exemplary. She has some noted, but there's others. So, and I don't know what the difference is either. I'll have to Wikipedia that. But it doesn't matter. She's way above average. We're lucky to have her. And the community, not just you, Doug, there were several others. They make themselves available, and especially when the big issues are on the table, and re-signing her was one of those. So I think I look across our immediate neighbors, and I'm pretty psyched that we have somebody leading us that's this talented, this smart, and I'm happy to be on this. I'm happy to be here working with her. So.
Thank you, Member Ward.
Yep.
In regards to the evaluation, I mean, there were only two things that came to mind for me when I was going through this whole thing. The human resources management and development the superintendent is doing way too much of that. Somebody else. That should not be on her plate. It's too big of a job. Having done that job and doing that job currently, and on the scale that I'm doing is way smaller than what Jordana's got going on, and she needs some help. It's not fair. And the other thing that kind of crossed my mind was in Standard 3, communication engages in regular two-way, culturally proficient communication with families and community stakeholders about student learning performance. I said proficient because I don't know, are you culturally proficient in all the various different languages that we work with? That was I don't know if you can be, and so my response was, yeah, I don't know, but from what I can tell, she seems proficient. Outside of that, well, I mean, those are really the only biggies that really stood out for me.
Okay. Thanks, Member Ekstrom. Member Alexander.
Well, relating to Committee Member Ward's comment about perfect people, he actually forgot one over here, but we'll let that go. We're good. My take on the evaluation process is I look at the human side of the job, and over the past year and a half, 2 years, especially this past year, I've seen the superintendent engaged in the school building. She's in and out of the buildings quite regularly. A little over a week ago, she was in the open house for the beginning of the school year, and I know I saw her at least 3 of the buildings because I was there too. When I see her interacting with groups around town, interested parties, stakeholders, or anything like that, she actually gives them her full attention. And I think the one thing that really impresses me about her, the human side of her doing this job, is Every time I see her, she's bragging about the kids. She's always got some kind of a headlight, hey, come here, let me show you what the kids at Federal Street are doing and stuff like that. So she shows a lot of pride in our students. And she's also very interested in students that graduate within the last couple of years. She follows them too. So a lot of human, a lot of spirit and pride in what we have here. So that's what I got.
Thank you,
And I'm
Member
perfect.
Alexander. Thank you, Member Alexander. Would any other members like to comment? Yes, Member Karen?
First, I want to say that anybody can email me at any time or find me on Facebook or stop me at Stop and Shop. Stood and talked about the parking situation for a while the other day. I love to hear stuff positive, negative, crazy talk. I don't care. Let's talk about it. So I can only respond to communication with people if they tell me. So all the people I talked to is how I got the answers I gave, and I want to hear more. But the other thing I really strikes me about Superintendent Harper, and has for many years, is that she doesn't just worry about their test scores. She wants to talk about their emotional growth, their behavioral growth, how we can do better for our REL students, how we can do better for our at-risk students. There isn't just one set of students she's worried about. So that was what I thought about the whole thing, clearly proficient towards the exemplary end. But as a general comment about this form, I was one of the people who couldn't get it to work on the internet, and I happened to not be in town, so I kept getting literally Chinese characters on my form, and I had to delete them to send it to someone else. So the form, we need to work on that section, but I think the form had a lot of really good questions and made me stop and think about a lot of things, and the evidence really helped me support my decisions. I just think the technological side of that, I'm not very good at that. It also was the week my phone started asking for a passcode and I didn't understand. So, but as a superintendent, I think she really worries about her children on the whole spectrum.
The form was a hot mess, whether you were technologically savvy or not. I'm just going to put that out there.
I'm just not.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good job.
Member Hollins?
What struck me doing this, a few things. One, I agree with Member Ekstrom. We should all get the same form, but it shouldn't have been pre-filled in because it does create a bias. We're supposed to give an unbiased report. So I agree with that, blank form, whatever it is. And I also had computer problems during this. My keyboard, some of the letters stopped, so I had to take it somewhere else, get that fixed, the hard drive fixed, so I had to do mine by hand. So I apologize, but the other thing that struck me, which I tended just to do what I thought I was supposed to do, which was, so the other thing that struck me is I think it's really important that the goals are expressed as SMART goals. That's the requirement for every teacher, every principal, superintendent, assistant principal, and it's the basis of the whole process that you have a goal that's written in a way that can be measured, is results-focused, timed, and tracked. That's what that's all about. And I didn't feel I could answer some of the questions because the goal wasn't written clearly enough to know what was. Anyway, I think in the future we should request whatever goals we have for ourselves or the superintendent to be written in the fashion required, because otherwise everything that follows, including all the evidence, is hard to do if you don't really have a clear goal. And the last thing is, I read every page in the evidence binder. In addition, there are some items in here that are like directions from a website. I think the evidence binder should stick to evidence of what we're looking at instead of directions like here's the guidelines for this, something like that, or the form we use. And it's okay, but I just think we should have an evidence binder that matches a goal that can be measured. So I had a little trouble with this. I wasn't trying to go just from opinion, but to look more at specific goals and evidence. But I agree with Cam, no matter who is the superintendent, they're tough jobs, you're pulled in a lot of directions, and no one is perfect. Everybody has areas where they excel and everybody has areas where they need to improve. I agree with that. I just hope our goals are clear. And I agree with there being more input, including, I hope, from our administrators. Those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Member Hollins. I have some comments too, and then I'd like to hear from the superintendent. First off, I just want to say that my markers for the 2 goals did not get translated into the document. I don't think anyone's did. But I did mark significant progress for both goals. And I believe that my comments are actually copied, I think just copied and pasted into the document so folks can read specifically my input related to the superintendent evaluation. But I will read from some of my comments just quickly for those that are at home viewing. I feel that our superintendent exhibits proficient performance in her job, in addition to maintaining very high standards for herself and supporting staff in their professional growth. The superintendent has made significant progress with both goals. It is clear that the key actions and benchmark for these goals have either been accomplished or are ongoing and underway. During this period, our superintendent has also focused much energy on accomplishments outside of these areas, including review and update of student safety measures, navigating a challenging budget cycle and discussion, and maintaining professional practice through difficult staffing hurdles, including contract negotiations, the outsourcing of our business management service, development of 2 new programs, and some staff resignations. I'm excited to see the new community engagement initiatives grow and expand to serve more community members and students. I support what other members have said with community engagement, and we've heard from some members requesting additional opportunities for a back and forth with committee members, and I have had multiple members request that. As well, I strongly support the efforts being made to support our principals in the work that they do in their professional development. I support additional expanded involvement and engagement with our principals. I also very much appreciate the superintendent's willingness to try on new communication platforms and embrace technology and digital communication. This is something that's really important to me. It's something that I've been talking about since I entered into the school committee, and I am really aware of where we are in culture today. And the expectations for communication, the urgency that is expected for communication, the need to reach community members in many different capacities. We just rolled out a new communication technology in order to help to reach additional families. This technology includes translation services that I think is really, really important. And of course, in rolling out anything new, there are going to be bumps along the road. And we are experiencing some bumps now, but I have confidence that we will smooth them out. And so I just think that the focus on this is actually incredibly important in this day and age. And beyond that, in general, I believe that we can do a little bit of better job of highlighting student achievement and success and take a broad public look at achievement markers. This is something that I very much would like to have a conversation about, how we measure student achievement and what we value. And I think that the superintendent does a very good job of valuing social and emotional learning and the whole student. And I'd like to expand on this conversation to better define what student achievement data supports our vision and the vision of our community. Our district would also benefit from regular check-ins and highlighting of district vision and goals, and I believe that our staff would benefit from a new approach to human resources. It's a bit of an echo from Member Ekstrom's comment related to human resources. Our superintendent has been working very hard related to human resources, and I think that this is an area where we need to be a bit more responsive. And I also believe that it's a shared responsibility for us to check in with our district vision and our goals. And I'm excited that the school committee has undertaken a self-evaluation and will be expanding on that conversation in the coming weeks. Because I also think that we have work to do to better refine our processes. And beyond that, just a couple of things that I heard in some member comments I want to respond to slightly. I heard about the formatting of the goals, and I agree that the process does call for goals to be written in the SMART goal format. And I also want to remind the committee that it's our responsibility to vote in those goals. It's our responsibility to come to mutually agreed upon language for these goals. So I look forward to us doing that with the FY19 goals. As well, it's our responsibility to request what evidence we want to see. So if we do want to hear from administrators, or if we want to see any specific kind of evidence, it's our responsibility to actually ask for those individual things. And in terms of the forms, we received the filled-in self-evaluation from the superintendent, and members received printed blank forms and then a digital blank form that came a couple days later. So we did have access to various forms, and I look forward to better ironing out that part of the process moving forward.
Me too.
Thank you, Member Ekstrom. Are there any other additional comments? Member Alexander.
Real quick, we did talk about a lot of the flaws and failures of this year's process. I would be interested in entertaining in the personnel subcommittee that we do a review of the steps and process and try to invite as many members of the full committee to this one meeting so that we can outline and identify what could have been done better, how we can actually fix it the next time around. So next year, that when committee member Ekstrom does the compiling.
He volunteered you already. You've been voluntold.
Anyway, but yeah, we'll do this process much better, but revisit this in a more detailed subcommittee meeting.
Thank you, Member Alexander. Superintendent, would you like to comment on any of this input and any of the process?
Sure. I'd like to start by thanking members of the public. It's a beautiful, although warm evening, and there are individuals that are sitting here that are interested in the success of our school district. And the superintendent evaluation process to me is obviously very personal, but at the same time, my work is on behalf of the teachers, the staff, and the students and families of our district. So I take the feedback of the committee quite seriously, and I appreciate the many members of the public that are part of making our district a success and providing that feedback so we can continue to learn and grow. When I speak to parents or staff in the buildings, I invariably get information that helps me make better decisions on behalf of the organization, and that's what this is about. Part of the power of a public evaluation, as I told our new teachers when they started at orientation, I will not ask anything of you, and I will not expect our principals to ask anything of you that we wouldn't do ourselves. And this is the process that our teachers go through in terms of progress on goals, setting goals, and performance on the standards. This is the process that our principals go through. This is the process that our central office administrators go through. Obviously, it's much more public for me, and I'm happy to sort of shine a light on the intense work that is the educator evaluation system. Because our principals are doing this work with our teachers, and our teachers are doing this work, and they're doing it in addition to teaching our students. And they don't have the benefit of everyone looking at it and viewing it on television, but they're doing it, they're compiling binders of evidence. So I'd like to thank our teachers for putting this level of attention into their own processes without any fanfare every year, because they want to learn, and I want to model that learning process and lead a learning organization. So thank you for your input that helps me to learn and grow and to better lead our organization. I received the compiled document sometime on Friday, sometime after 10 p.m. last night. I think the individual comments were sent out, so I received those this morning, and I have not had an opportunity to spend a lot of time with those, so I won't comment on any of the individual comment, except to say that the feedback is useful, and helps me to reflect and grow, as I mentioned. I will say that I do have some concerns in general with the process, both the departure from the timeline that we had originally set out, and then just in terms of being prepared for this evening, as I sit here right now, I don't actually know what the compiled rating, for example, on the goals is, so it's difficult to know how to come prepared to respond. I would like to make a few clarifying comments just in response to some members' comments, but I will be brief. The first is that this binder of evidence was sent out electronically first to the committee, and then in a hard copy because there was a request from 1 or 2 members for a hard copy, so I just made it for everybody. And the first 100 or so pages are in fact printouts because they are guidelines that have to do with just the process. So they're a copy of the training materials we received from the Mass Association of School Committees, the guidelines that are the Department of Education regulations, which are referenced in both my contract and they're the statutory regulations that guide the school committee's work, and then just some helpful documents about the process. The others are, as I mentioned at our last public meeting, simply samples. They're not meant to be exhaustive, and I would have been very happy to sit down with anybody about any questions or requests. I didn't receive any requests for additional information. I didn't receive any questions about the material that was in here. So I'm assuming that it was pretty straightforward and it was helpful to you all. I hope it was. It certainly is something that I put some thought into. Regarding the self-assessment, it's intended as a self-assessment. It's not intended to persuade anybody. It's simply part of the cycle and part of the agreed upon process that the Department of Ed asks, and that is to reflect on your practice and to provide your own self-assessment. I provided that to Member Ekstrom, and then I also asked what else was needed, and I was told a blank one would be helpful, so I think that was provided.
Yep.
The goals that were presented, I think I had roughly 4 months to work on. I'm very pleased that we have expanded family and community outreach as much as we have. I do want to touch briefly on the school messenger rollout because it's both exciting and we want to make sure families know the supports that are available. So one of our goals was expanding family communication, and school messenger was a request, was a response to a request from families for more timely and more methods of communication. So we will be having some information sessions. You can look for family notification on an info night coming up. We have it scheduled right now for September 12th. And if you think about this committee and the difficulty that was had with one form, with a relatively low level of technology, with intelligent people, you can imagine that rolling out a brand new system that's new for people with apps and whatnot, it's just new. So we're providing an opportunity for folks to have questions answered. Our Director of Technology has agreed to have her staff available, and we just want to help people access this. So we understand that there are questions with anything, and we're providing some support so families can come and get questions answered, and we're going to continue to put out information to families until we've got everybody on board. And that is expected to take a little while, and we're really excited. Families that have already opted in have had very positive feedback on that so far. We do use telephone calls, emails, and text messages, and we do have translation available in over 70 languages, in addition to social media, the website, backpacks, newsletters, in-person, meet and greets, you name it. We also have the Greenfield School Lunch now has a Facebook page. I personally don't have a Facebook page for the schools, but if you're interested in what was for lunch at the middle school today, you can find out. There was a lot of talk about FY19. I'm really interested in moving forward into the FY19 year. We're sitting here in September talking about last year's goals. We've launched a new school year. The school year is well underway, and we're very excited to have students and families back. So I'd be interested in moving forward. We have a number of new staff as a result of some retirements and other changes, and this will be a huge focus of my work, is providing support and training to them. And I do appreciate the feedback that has been provided through this process. Thanks.
Are there any other comments? Okay, seeing none, we do have a motion on the table. Susan Farber, could you read back the motion?
To approve the superintendent's FY18 evaluation with a final assessment of proficient in all areas with individual comments removed.
Okay, does everyone understand the motion on the table?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Is that, it doesn't really matter, I guess, but are we going to fill in the first page, or are we just going to leave it as it is since this first page doesn't have anything on it?
I'd actually like us to have input from Member Ekstrom. She did have individual member input related to the goals themselves. I believe that data is available, and I would like us to address that in a separate motion, so I appreciate the question. Okay. Right now, we're looking at everything outside of that.
Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Member Hollins abstains. Okay, so at this time, I would entertain a motion. Well, actually, Member Ekstrom, would you like to give us a little input as to what individual members stated for the performance goals 1 and 2?
So,
Could you tell us what we're doing now?
We are, so if we look at the committee compilation, there are no responses that showed up here at all.
In step 1.
Didn't we just decide everything would be proficient?
Yes, we did, but there is actual responses that didn't show up on here for 9 million technological reasons. So is it that we want to talk about them out loud?
So step 1, which addresses the specific goals 1 and 2, and that would be the professional practice goal, instructional leadership. It reads, at the heart of every district's success is student learning. It's that paragraph. And then goal number 2, the professional practice district improvement goal, to expand family and community engagement at the district level, including for families whose primary language is not English. These 2 goals have different markers, including did not meet, some progress, significant progress, met, and exceeded. And in reviewing individual member input, I did notice that there were markers for that input. And I think you have the data.
So what I could see on goal 1, we had, do you want me to name names? It's a public document.
It's up to you. It's a public document.
Well, I mean, this is my chicken scratch. On goal 1, we had one member who checked significant progress and one who said met. Those were the only responses that I was able to view. On goal 2, we had 1 response, and it was exceeded. And so as I'm looking at the committee compilation, the standard 1, 2, 3, and 4, standard 1, all responded proficient, standard 2, all responded proficient, standard 3, all with the exception of 1, responded proficient. The exemption was in exemplary. Standard 4, all responded proficient.
Okay. So we are discussing step 1, goal 1.
Can I make a motion?
Yes.
Significant progress.
Member Ward moves to approve goal 1 at the level of significant progress.
And 2.
Goals 1 and 2 at the level of significant progress. Is there a second?
So moved. I mean, second. We can't talk about it unless I say it. So.
Seconded by Member Karen. So just to clarify, Member Ward just moved to approve the assessment of significant progress for goals 1 and goal 2. And seconded by Member Karen. Would you like to speak to your motion, Member Ward?
No.
Thank you. It's okay.
I think that there's it seems like we have a little bit of data from members ranging from significant progress to met, to exceeded. I mean, what do these things mean? I mean, we get down to what's proficient, what's exemplary. I think that it looks like the superintendent and her self-assessment said significant progress in both. So I got her back.
Member Karen, would you like to speak to your second?
I agree that it should be significant progress. I know that when I filled it out, that is what I had put. I'm not sure if those came through or not. We gave her these goals, or she and us worked together to make goals in February, and she has made clear progress on them. I don't think that she has met them yet, but she is making strong strides all the time to make that happen. So I felt like significant progress was true.
And would other members like to comment?
I agree.
Okay, and just for myself, I did also mark significant progress for both of these goals. And some of my commentary was included in my remarks earlier, specific to these individual items. Yes.
I don't know if committee members saw this. I do just want to point out that on the self-assessment, there is a report on every single goal. So, for example, on page 4, goal 1 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 key actions, and there's a status of each one, with 2 of those completed and 3 ongoing. And on page 6, there's a goal number 2 with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 key actions and 6 benchmarks, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of those are completed and 1 is ongoing. So I just wanted to make sure the committee is aware that that update is provided separately from the rest of the evidence.
Mm-hmm. Is there any further comment? Okay. I'll just say that I did see that input, and it was very helpful, including also the evidence in our binder, and I do feel like these are goals that are still, these are still works ongoing, and that's why I opted for significant progress. There are some key benchmarks that were certainly met and completed. However, I felt as like a summative for myself as a final, I was comfortable with significant progress on both of those. And there is a motion on the table to approve, to assess step 1, goal 1, and goal 2 at the level of significant progress. Is there any further deliberation? Okay, and everyone understands the motion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That is unanimous. Okay. So I believe that the last thing that I want to raise to the committee is the question of whether or not we would like to include any kind of information about the process and some of the difficulties that we faced in this process, just to include that as a formal part of the evaluation. I would entertain a motion to include a simple statement reflecting our this year's process and some of the challenges that we faced.
So moved.
Moved by Member Ekstrom. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Member Hollins.
Was that an actual motion or a request for a motion?
Well, it was a motion to include a statement, and it did not include the specific language of the statement. So if you have suggestions for specific language on a statement, I I would like us to just simply reflect the timeline for this particular process. I would also suggest that we reflect our challenges with technology and challenges with timing and potentially external factors that just impacted this particular evaluation cycle.
I think it's worth a note, at the very least.
I know.
It's not, not, it's certainly all of those put together were a perfect storm of crazy, and it's worth a note, but I don't know. I mean, yeah, I think it's worth note.
Member Hollins.
Well, could the simple statement be, in completing the FY18 superintendent evaluation, the school committee would like to make note of unique difficulties that it intends to address going forward in FY19, period. These include technology, consistency of form, clarity of process.
And rolling timeline, I think is worth noting.
And
doesn't matter why it was a rolling timeline, but
and timeline.
Okay.
Structure, something like that.
Member Ekstrom, would you accept as a friendly amendment the specific language that Susan Hollins has suggested?
I will.
Okay. Susan Farber, can you help us in repeating that if you can?
In completing the FY18 superintendent evaluation, the school committee would like to make note of unique difficulties that it intends to address going forward in FY19. These include technology, consistency of forms, clarity of process, and timeline. And is there something else that you
Rolling timeline.
rolling timeline?
Yeah, because it was a moving target from start to end, which isn't helpful, just is what it was.
Thank you, Susan Farber. Is there discussion on this? Member Karen.
I just want to make a personal statement that while this was extremely difficult for me technologically, I feel very confident with the end result.
Yeah.
This was what I would have said in the end anyway, so I didn't work out exactly how we wanted it to, but I feel like the end result was where I was happy with that.
Thank you, Member Karen. Any other comments, Member Hollins?
I just want to thank you for holding the meeting tonight. It's September, and I'm just thankful we can move from FY18 into FY19 to get some goals, so I'm glad we've concluded FY18.
Thank you, Member Hollins. And any further conversation on the motion? Okay, so there's a motion on the table to include a school committee statement addressing challenges in the FY18 evaluation that we just heard from Susan Farber. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Member Ward abstains. Motion passes. Thank you, everyone. This concludes the superintendent evaluation for FY18. I do want to emphasize some real appreciation for the committee and for members of the public and for the superintendent. It's a lot of work to put together all of these evaluation materials and to engage in a public evaluation process. And I look forward to further refining this and continuing to address some of our challenges at the upcoming MASC workshop. Is there a motion to adjourn? Thank you. And a second? Second by Member Ward. Okay, all those in favor of adjournment? Aye. Don wants to stay. Thank you.
of our productions at GCTV are sponsored in part by Bay State Health, providing the care you and your family need when you need it close to home. Visit them online at baystatehealth.org. Greenfield Savings Bank. Visit them at 400 Main Street in Greenfield. Call them at 774-3191 or go online to greenfieldsavings.com. Greenfield Community College, providing access and excellence in higher education in the Pioneer Valley. Visit them at gcc.mass.edu. The Hammond Family. The Hammond family are longtime supporters of Greenfield Community Television. New Fortune Chinese Restaurant on the Mohawk Trail in Greenfield. Visit them online at newfortunema.com. Call them at 772-0838 and check them out on Facebook. Real Cleaning Services, cleaning Hampshire and Franklin County since 1972. We don't cut corners, we clean them. Check them out online at realclean.com. Call them at 413-422-1143. People's United Bank, located at 45 Federal Street in Greenfield. You can call them at 774-3713 or visit them online at peoples.com. The Solar Store of Greenfield, replacing fossil fuels and nuclear power one home at a time. Visit them at 23 Fisk Ave. Call them at 413-772-3122 or visit them online at solarstoreofgreenfield.com. Thank you to our sponsors for supporting all of GCTV's productions.